Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Sonia Couto, and I'm so happy she said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm fantastic when I see you and I get the chance to ask questions to you. But first, I would like to introduce you to the audience, of course. You are a tech entrepreneur, two-time founder and breast cancer survivor with 18 plus years of experience. Known for transforming early stage startups, you excel at simplifying challenges and creating successful strategies that drive innovation. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Sonia Couto.
Thank you.
Oh, it sounds like a melody. Your name, I have to mention it. Now I pronounce it twice, or I don't know. It's really poetic. Yes, I think. So my first question to you is: how has your experience as a cancer survivor influenced your approach to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I was already doing entrepreneurship prior to getting my diagnosis, so it was kind of like right in the middle of the smack of it, right? I think it just made me a better leader. Number one, it as an entrepreneurship is a lonely place to be. You feel like you have all these ideas, you have all these things that you want to build, and you're living in the hustle, the go 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 go. And I don't think I was utilizing my team to its full potential because I was in that hustle mindset. And then I go through this breast cancer experience and I have to slow down whether I want to or not. And I have to make changes in my life to adapt to therapy and surgeries and all this stuff. It's not something that I can avoid. So I think it changed me in the sense that it made me trust my team. It made me learn how to delegate and realize that I actually didn't have to do those jobs. And I just think it made me a better leader. And it also made me more empathetic towards my team.
Wow, I love what you shared. Thank you so much. And I see it. It makes totally sense. You don't have so much time as before when you are in treatment. I don't know if this is the right word. And how does it change your decision making?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes that much, but it changes your decision making in the sense where you're not thinking short term, you're thinking long term because you don't know, like I didn't know what was going to happen for a very long time. I didn't know if I was going to die from this disease because I didn't know what stage I was at. It took a long time for me to find that out. It was until after I had my first surgery. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and so I had to really learn how to plan for long term, that if my situation got worse, how can I continue the business? How can it continue growing? What will it need to be able to sustain itself without depending on me?
Yes, that are good questions. Not many leader ask themselves, but it is important. And also what
Yeah.
you mentioned about what was it like delegating more as well.
Yeah, I definitely had to learn how to delegate. That was one of my problems from the get-go. I was always one of those people that I believed that if I wanted something done right, I had to do it myself. And then you get stuck or you get put into the situation where you have to completely eliminate that belief from your head because now you need people and you need things to get done right by other people. So it was a bit of a slap in the face for me because I had to step out of that mindset, but it was a blessing in disguise because now I'm still doing my job and doing my work and living my life the same way, where I'm delegating and I'm letting other people do the jobs that they were hired to do versus me trying to do the job that I'm not trained for, but yet they are and I was trying to do it.
Yes,
They're
you
they're
talk.
they're going to do a much better job than I am, for sure.
I understand. Yeah, sometimes, I had a company too, and I thought sometimes as the owner or leader, you are in the way, you are the obstacle, and the people are better without,
Yeah.
of
It's true.
course.
Sometimes we are the ones that get in our own way.
Yes. Wow, it's amazing what you shared. Thank you so much, and so much learning as well. What's your key strategy for turning struggling startups into tech successes?
Simplicity. That's the one word that I will use. I find that, I've had two startups that I've had the privilege of taking over from complete failures, and I've had to rebuild those brands and rebuild the teams. And I mean, I'm the middle child of five kids, so I'm used to hand me downs. So hand me down a company, I can probably do it pretty well. But it's really about keeping things simple. I find that like early stage founders, they do tend to overcomplicate things a little bit, where before they take a product to market and building like a minimal viable product, they try to build the whole thing, or they go in with the intention of building an MVP, and then by the time it's done they have the full product. They don't really quite have a full business plan done short term, and then do the long term later. Everything is just sort of like being done right from the start, and that actually sometimes slows you down. Sometimes when you just go into it with a mindset of simplicity, this is what I'm trying to achieve, these are the results that I need, what do I need to execute to achieve this and get these results. So I'm not trying to get the results of my business where it's going to be in 10, 15 years. I just want to find out if the market has a fit for this product, and in order to do that I need these results, right? So it's almost like scaling it back and taking baby steps and simplifying the whole process and just saying, okay, this is what I want to do. These are the results. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, the next step is I want to see this. Can I put those two together and do it at the same time? Yes, no. If I can't, okay, then that's the next step. And it's almost like having a master checklist of what you want to do with your product, what you want to achieve, and then start getting through it versus waiting for you to have a perfect product built out, because technology is changing every day. That's not going to happen. Making sure that it's sustainable for long-term growth. But when you're thinking about long-term growth, but you don't even know if you have a market yet. Have you done all your market analysis? Have you spoken to potential clients? Do you have your pricing model figured out? So it's, for me, it's all of that. And but I call it like simplicity, scaling it back and going at it with the mindset of these are the things I want to achieve, and going through each one versus trying to do everything and scaling up like right from the get-go. That gets messy and complicated really quickly, and I see a lot of startups fail because of that.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean. It is like focusing as well, and not on the highest goal, on the next goal. We focus and then
Yeah.
succeed. You mentioned baby steps as well, and it is so easy because we often get distracted by things that are not necessary, and we can leave them or remove them, leave them behind. Yes. Okay, my
Yeah.
next
And it
question.
also can cause burnout, right? If you're trying to do everything from the get-go, it's going to cause burnout to the founder, to the team, and it's going to be really, really stressful to manage everything at once.
Absolutely. You mentioned the team as well. And in the beginning, you talked about trust as well. And I think
Mhm.
now the mindset you how can I say this? You seem to be in is confident. You are more confident after what you experienced. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you know what? Like you sort of learn as you go in life. Like we don't know everything, and we don't know what we don't know until you go through an experience and you take the time to be open to learning from that experience. If you're closed off, once that experience is over, then you just go back to being the person that you were and you didn't really take anything away from it. But if you go through something and you open yourself to understanding why you went through it, the changes that you made and the impact that they had on your life, whether it was a good impact, positive or negative, you have to be open to really understanding those negatives and those positives, and then be able to really filter it and walk away with all of the positives and being open to being a better version of yourself, right? If you go through an experience and you learn nothing and you go back to being who you were prior to that experience, then what was the point of going through that experience? Whether it was a breast cancer experience, or getting hit by a car, or just waking up late, it doesn't matter, right? If you're open to new possibilities and open to really learning, I think that's when it really opens up everything for you to understand who you are, who you want to be, what you want to achieve, what you don't want to achieve. And when you know what you want to achieve, everything else starts falling into place with that too, because you're just being open to everything.
Yes, to the opportunities that life offers you. And it is
Hmm.
so important to go through things, you said, instead of stopping right before the first obstacle. Let's say there's a book called The Obstacle is the Way. I don't know if you know this book.
Yeah. I always think about, and I think a lot of people talk about this when children are trying to learn how to walk, they have to crawl first, right? And then once they start learning how to walk, sometimes they'll crawl a little bit before they get really good at walking. But when a child starts walking, they sort of forget about crawling. They just start walking. And I think as adults, we forget sometimes that, once you've gone through a stage and now you've moved on to a new one, so the crawling to the walking, you don't have to go back to the crawling. You can continue walking and then move on to the next phase and the next phase. But the child only learns how to walk from falling a lot while they're crawling and trying to stand. You know what I mean? There's that whole learning process. And I think as adults, we have to continue going through that journey of, the crawling to the walking and falling and learning and being open to. Can you imagine if a child fell and he became traumatized and never learned how to walk,
No.
right?
No, I don't think so. It's a good question because we all, or we almost all are able to walk, and we do this because we didn't stop. So persistence is important.
Yeah.
And really, and what you said, oh, I love what you said. I have to re-listen to this episode again. I learned so much. How do you foster resilience and innovation in early stage teams?
Yeah, I mean, resilience really comes from the top and is taught down to the team. I think when a team can see that the leadership is resilient and is leading by example, I think that goes a long way. You can't ingrain your habits and your beliefs on other people. You can only lead by example. And I've done that my whole life, and I've tried my best to do that with my team and the people that I work with. It's not always perfect, but usually it goes a long way when people say, okay, like, she expects this of us, but she's also doing it. She's in the trenches with us. She's not sitting on her mighty queen chair and watching the rest of us do everything, right? And I think that puts in, that creates that team environment right from the get-go, when you're willing to go through the trenches with your team.
Wow, absolutely. Yes, you talk also about culture in companies, for example.
Yeah. I mean, look, culture for me, I have my love and hate relationship with cultures, cuz I always want the culture to be perfect, but it's never perfect. And one of the things that I've learned, it was a hard lesson for me, because I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be happy always. I want everyone to love their job, and I want everyone to wake up in the morning and feel like, yes, I love what I do. But the reality of the fact is, some people don't. And you can try and create the best cultures in the world. There's always going to be one person that is not happy or doesn't like what you're doing. So I've stopped trying to push myself to have the perfect culture. And I just try to go day by day and try to make, some people happy. I know I can't make everybody, but, try to create a culture where there is at least a sense of no stress. I think that's really important, right? If I can't make everybody happy, maybe I can have a culture where people don't feel stressed out, where people don't feel like, if somebody asks to do something, it means do it now. No, there's no micromanaging. I think that's one of the worst things to do, to have in a culture where people feel micromanaged, because then that adds to them not being happy. So I try to do like little things that I think will have an impact, but I'm also very realistic to the fact that I'm not God and I can't make everybody happy. So I can only build a culture to a certain point, and then it's sort of up to the people to keep adding and building on that culture that I've set the stage for.
Wow, I love that. You are not God. You are not responsible for the feelings of the other persons. You do your best, and then they have to take responsibility for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. But for a long time, I thought it was my responsibility to make other people happy, but it's not. So I stopped trying.
And it feels better because, and this
Yeah.
matches also your motto of simplicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing. And my next question is about your goals. Do you set goals for yourself or intentions? And what is one of your next projects?
Yeah, I do. I'm big on goal setting. Like I live my life on spreadsheets and calendars and to-do lists. So I do have goals. Right now I'm at the point in my life where I've taken these two startups, I've built them, I've rebuilt them, I've taken them to market. So now I want to obviously scale them to the point where the board can say yes, we want to sell them, or we want to keep growing them. But then I also know that the next step in my phase is I want to help other founders go through, deal with the challenges that I dealt with, and I had no one to help me and guide me through. I feel like, especially in the tech startup community, everyone's making the same mistakes that people prior to them already made, and they've figured out ways to overcome them, and they have all of this knowledge in their head, and it's not really being shared. So the next step in my phase is just I want to work with founders to help them figure out, what's the next phase if you're failing, and there's nothing wrong with failing. It's just learning how to pivot, learning how to simplify. A lot of founders, especially in tech, they'll hire their own in-house teams to do development and to build the tech, but they don't actually know that much about tech, and they end up hiring the wrong people. So there's all of these processes and ways of building a particularly a tech startup that I feel like I can share and help other founders be more successful early on versus going through years and years of pain and trying to figure it out on their own.
Wow, I love what you shared. I never thought of it that way, or that there are difficulties. And for me, it would be like logical. Yes, you hire your development team, whatever, and then then you see what happens. But it's not
Yeah,
the
but here's the thing with that, right? I just want to add to that. So, yes, so let's say I don't know anything about technology, but I have an idea that requires software, right? I don't know anything about tech. How do I know how to hire a developer? What kind of experience do they need to have? What's the process? What are the tools that I need? So why wouldn't I just go out and hire a company that's going to give me a price to build this, who already has the processes in place, who has the right people for the project? Why am I going to create all that work right from stage one? Now, as the tech company grows and as you need to keep building, yeah, you can start slowly hiring in-house, but you can do that because you've now learned from a company that has done it for you and showed you the way to go about it,
absolutely.
right? If not, you're going to spend I see startups spending so much money on resources and resources and resources, and then sometimes, I did a consulting thing with a startup the other day, and they were like, can you talk to our entire team and tell us, like, what are they doing? And I realized that, like, they had a massive team that they didn't require, and 8 people out of the team weren't really doing much. They were just wasting salaries. Now, it doesn't mean that the people weren't valuable. They didn't know what to give them for them to be valuable. But then at the end of the day, I was like, you can save so much money because you don't actually need these resources. You have enough to get the job done. But not enough founders know that right from the get-go.
Yes, absolutely. They think maybe the mindset is the more I put in, the more I receive. And you
Yeah,
talk
and
about
that's not true.
Mhm. Yeah, it's about making plans, and you talked about pivoting as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and processes, right? Especially in software, there are ways to do things, and if you try to cut corners, it's going to come back and nib you in the butt in 5, 10 years. It will eventually hit you, and you now get stuck in the situation of, oh crap, I shouldn't have gone about it this way. Now I have to scrap this entire product and build it again from scratch. Do I have the money? Do I have the resources? I have to change the technology because the technology that we chose is no longer being supported. These are all things that you need to think about if you want to be able to scale in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? It's like a house. You can't build a blueprint for a house, for a two-story house, and come back 20 years later and say I want to build a third story. The foundation is not going to support it. But if you know that eventually you're going to scale and have a family and grow, and you want to build this house out further, build a foundation so that it can support that later on. It's the same thing when you're building a company, right?
Yes, so you think first and then you start acting, not the other way around. Wow, it's
Yeah.
so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I have one last question, of course, for you. It is where can we find you when people want to reach out to you?
Yeah. So I actually have a website. It's Sonia, Sonia Couto.com, SoniaCouto.com. That's my first name, my last name. My portfolio's there, my email's there. Anyone can reach out to me. Everything about me is there. You can't miss it.
I love it. Please reach out to Sonia. She's amazing. She shares her knowledge and wisdom and helps startups and entrepreneurs how to delegate and keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for our interview. I learned so much. Now is time for your final thoughts to the audience, please.
Yeah, I mean, for your audience, I'm just going to say if anybody is already building a business or you're thinking about it, just remember there is no such thing as work life balance. As an entrepreneur, you're always going to be in the hustle. You just have to learn when you need to shut down, listen to your body if it's telling you something. Usually, as we're about to get sick, our body starts talking to us, but we're not good at listening. And you don't want to get into a situation like me where I ended up with breast cancer because I didn't listen to my body. So just listen to your body, listen to yourself, and do try to take time for yourself to journal, to just listen to music and make yourself happy in between all the stuff. Because listen, I'm going to be realistic. All the stuff is going to keep going for years and years and years. It doesn't stop. So find a good balance.
Wow, that's a good message for all of us. Thank you so much for inspiring us today, Sonia Couto.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you and see you in the next episode.